Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan is with us. She is a CBS News contributor. Good morning, Peggy.
Good morning, guys.
I think it's important to read Speaker Ryan's comments yesterday very carefully. And I took a look at him again this morning. He said it's going to take more than a week just to repair and unify this party. Do you think his comments yesterday were pragmatic or prophetic?
Oh, interesting question. I think all of us would like to be in on the meeting in which he, tomorrow morning, he is with Donald Trump and Mitch
Gail
McConnell.
said she wants to be the fly on the wall.
Yes. Look, this is a party trying to reconcile itself with the fact that it has an unusual nominee who they did not imagine, even against all the signs the past few months, would be the nominee. There's something even more unusual than that. Donald Trump won just about 10.5 million votes along the way to winning the nomination. Those voters were, in effect, not only endorsing Trump, they were rebuking Republican leadership in Washington. It is now Republican leadership in Washington that has to come together with Trump and his people and figure out a way to go forward when they disagree on so very much.
You think Paul Ryan has to move, not Donald Trump, in terms of policy?
I think, well, one thing I hear from Washington is Paul Ryan will go in and see what concessions he can get. If that is true, I'm not sure that's the way they ought to be holding their first meeting. Maybe they ought to, as they both said, they don't know each other. Maybe they ought to get to know each other. Maybe they ought to get to see areas where there may be commerce, areas where they may be give. And in those areas where they're just head-to-head in disagreement on, say, immigration, then come forward and speak of it very seriously. Don't be furtive. You know, don't be taking shots at each other. Speak seriously and with depth.
Peggy,
about the differences.
This is what I'm curious about. What are your Republican homies saying about Donald Trump? You know a lot of people. You talk amongst yourself behind closed doors. Yeah. What are you all saying to each other?
Oh, some people are just trying to wrap their heads around what is still for them a surprise. It's a funny thing about people in politics. They ought to be the ultimate realists. And yet there were a lot of people in Washington politics, Washington Republican politics, who thought, Trump won't happen because that's not the kind of thing that happens. Therefore, it won't happen.
But it has.
And so they managed to be surprised last week when he just cleaned it all up. There's lots of arguments going on, lots of accusations of bad faith. When people in politics come forward and say, I've thought about it, I'm going to support Trump, they are immediately lambasted on social media as sellouts, as cynics, as bad people. There's not very much good faith out there right now among Republicans. There's just not a lot of granting of good faith.
But he seems to have the support of the people that can't be ignored. That's the thing that I think.
10.5 million people.
Yes.
Plus, he brought a bunch of them into the Republican Party for the first time. Republican leaders in Washington ought to be thinking, geez, for 10 years we've been doing white papers on how to bring people in. This guy just brought people in. Do we like that or not? I mean, they're going to have to figure that out. Normally, you like the guy who makes the tent bigger.
And he says that he's not going to go with data-driven campaigns that were very successful for President Obama, that he's going to rely on rallies. What is your take on that?
My take is, wow, back to the future? This is so surprising. We have broken into the digital age in which, unforgettably, in 2012, Obama's people showed you get out the vote by knowing the voters, by being in contact with them, by all social media. Okay, fine. New things happen. That was a big change. Trump is looking at it and saying, no, I like the old way. I'm going to have big rallies. Everybody likes my rallies.
Your take on Bernie Sanders, Peggy, who says that he still has a chance. Does he know something that the pollsters don't?
I think he wants to win, and he feels continually a wave of support behind him. It is not meaningless that Mrs. Clinton last time in the primary took West Virginia and last night did not.
He did, yeah.
I mean, there's still something behind Sanders. It's hard to imagine mathematically how he becomes the nominee, but you can tell he's going to stay in this game.
Peggy Noonan, great to have you as always.
Thank you.
Always good to see you.